Have you checked out the Somebody You Love Patreon yet?
For just $3 a month, you can get every episode without ads and you get them a day early.
For $6 a month, you get all of our bloopers and behind-the-scenes action.
For $10 a month, you get monthly bonus episodes.
And for $20 a month, you also get the bonus episodes as videos.
You can cancel anytime, and when you sign up, you get access to everything that we've posted so far.
We also have annual subscriptions where you save 10% and get 1 month free.
Patreon.com/somebodyyoupod, as in podcast.
You do have to type in the URL because Patreon hides 18 plus creators from the search, so you most likely won't be able to find us by searching. That's patreon.com/somebodyyoupod. Welcome to Somebody You Love, or The Sale of Two Titties. I'm Jenna Love.
And I'm Holly Hart.
And we're experts in disappointing our parents, breaching community guidelines, and banging the people who vote against our rights.
We would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we are recording today. Jenna is on the land of the Darug and Gundungurra people, and Darian and myself are on the land of the Ngunnawal people. We would like to pay respect to the elders and acknowledge their spiritual connection to country.
Today, we are talking to Darian Rye. Darian is a male escort for women and couples based in Canberra, Australia. I would say, out of all the requests that we get for guests, in the top 2 is a male escort. And I've been avoiding it for a while because my raging feminist was just, holding me back from it. But we like Darian, so we let him on the show. We were like, if we must.
He'll
That's
do,
not what
I
happened at all.
guess,
We reached out. But Darian entered the adult industry in 2016, and since then he has grown a successful business in keeping women company. He enjoys fitness and nutrition, and he's worked in a range of industries before his career as an escort, including construction, farming, hospitality, manufacturing, and emergency services. So hello, welcome.
Welcome.
Hello, guys. It's good to talk to you again.
Yes, it is. It's lovely. It almost feels more awkward when you know the guest. Do you get that, Holly?
Yeah. A little bit. Yeah, it is, because I can fangirl when it's strangers. I'm like, oh my God, I'm obsessed with you. Whereas, like, when I've already met you, I'm like, oh, hey. Like, you already know how weird I am. Like,
there's no pretending.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, shit. All right, let's go straight into it. Hit us with your origin story, Darian. What led you to become an escort, and how did you begin your journey in the industry?
Yeah, well, I can give you the short version, or I can expand a little bit on it.
Give us a version.
Yeah,
like
so more
version.
in the sort of like recent history explanation is I was basically homeless for a while. I was in a lot of debt. So this is back in 2016. Let's say 2015 actually. I was an apprentice carpenter. So I was halfway through my carpentry apprenticeship. I was on pretty low wages, and the culture of the place where I was working was pretty high stress. So I was having a bad time, just in life in general. Around my birthday in 2015, I remember I got drunk by myself at home 3 times in the same week, and that was sort of a signal to me that I needed to sort of change something. But yeah, sex work wasn't my first thought. So in 2016 rolled around, I decided that I wanted to do something crazy. Like, I was like, 2016, this is going to be my year. So I was like, I'm going to do something out there, change my life. What I basically did was I moved into my work van. So I set up a hammock, I set up a solar power system, and I actually lived in the van for 6 months to save money. And at the same time, I got into about 35 grand worth of debt. So you can see where this is going. So I got into this debt to go on an extravagant overseas holiday because I just wanted to live it up a little bit. And I'd been using the gym, the 24-hour gym, for the bathrooms and the showers, and so I did this epic fitness transformation around the same time. I'd always been sort of naturally fairly athletic and healthy without really needing to do much, but when I did this transformation, I was like thoroughbred, like visible abs, extremely fit for the first time. And I'd already seemed to do pretty well with the ladies. I was very, shall we say, experienced in relationships.
So actually kind of bad with women?
Just a
Is
slut.
that what that means?
But yeah, I mean, they seem to like me, at least in small doses. So yeah, it was from that place I decided to try escorting. So I put an ad up on a directory, and I got a few bookings, and it got me out of the financial hole that I dug myself into. And then obviously I went on the trip, had a great time for 2 months, blew my entire life savings and the $35K of debt that I got into. And then I came back and I moved back into the van, and, life just crashed into a ditch again. And I actually had no intentions of returning to sex work when I came back from the trip. But I think it was about 6 months later, I tried a few different things. I tried Uber driving. Like, I quit my carpentry job. I got qualified as a carpenter. So I tried Uber driving. I tried doing, handyman work on the side. And eventually I decided, hey, I'm going to give escorting another go. And so, but I went about it a bit more seriously, I guess, this time. So I made myself a website, learned how to do that, did it, made social medias, I had a professional photo shoot done. From there, it just started, things just started to spiral upward, and this became my career. And it almost feels like it's a sort of a calling, not in the sense of I'm God's gift to women, but just in, like, it just seems like it's the right fit. Like, I'm the right person,
totally
the right person
relate.
to do this. Yeah. In terms of my disposition.
Can I ask why you found carpentry so unsatisfying? Like, you went through and you did the whole, apprenticeship, and then you went, fuck this. Like, what?
That's a great question, Holly. Thank you. Because it doesn't occur to people to ask that. But yeah, it wasn't actually the carpentry that rubbed me the wrong way. It was the culture. I don't know if you can sense this about me, but I don't get on with other tradies generally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I grew up and I sort of I was pushed really hard to do well academically in school. And then suddenly but all the way along, my dad had this vision of me becoming a tradie, but for some reason pushed me, nothing less than perfect was good enough in school. And so I had to switch drastically from kicking ass academically to then trying to fit in with tradie culture, and it just did not work. I just did not gel.
Yeah.
And I pushed through it. I pushed through it for years, and I think I had a sort of a chip on my shoulder about it not being, about being manly. You need to be more manly. There's that toxic masculinity element coming in, and trying to impress my father as well to a degree. But yeah, it wasn't actually carpentry that I didn't like. It was more just I didn't really fit in.
I think it's a very common sex worker thing to be trying so hard for so long to fit into the ideals of what your parents or what you've been raised, that society has ingrained into you that you should be, and you push through that, and eventually you find this career that is so unusual and so unacceptable. Maybe you feel like, oh, I'm a bit of a weirdo for doing this, or there's something wrong with this job, but actually it's something where I feel right, and that's such a hard thing to get past, the feeling of, oh, I'm doing something that would disappoint my parents, or I'm doing something that's socially unacceptable, but actually I feel good, and I feel more right than I have in all of the things that I should feel right in. And that's such a big thing to overcome. So I'm glad you've really found your way and found that, that this is something where you feel like you are finding yourself, or you're making a career that you find valid. Good.
So you've been doing it a little while now. What do you think are some of the key things that female clients are looking for when they're booking an escort? There's
a couple of misconceptions that I think a lot of people in the general public hold. And that is, first one, huge dick, massive. They think you must be endowed like Satan himself. But no, I mean, I think they overemphasize the importance of that hugely.
Yeah.
Big muscles, must have huge muscles, a cool tan and tattoos, and be really, really ridiculously good looking. Those are the three things: the dick, the muscles, and the good looks. I think as people think that's what it is, but it's really...
And our listeners can't tell that you are hideous. Yeah. So just it's tough to look at the screen.
I know.
Yeah. It's horrifying. Yeah, I'm using a lot of lighting and trick photography to make it appear
just so we can deal
as though I am much better looking than what I actually am.
No, we're kidding, of course. Sorry, go on.
But yeah, really what it comes down to is I think it's realness. They want you to be a good listener, a lot of times. This is for escorting. You're a good listener, interesting to talk to. You can hold a conversation. You can hold space for them to let them talk. They want to really be seen, really be understood by a man. Human contact, intimacy, good sex, of course, on their own terms as well, because that can be hard to come by. But yeah, I mean, they want share. They want you to share real lived experience, worldly wisdom, and at the end of the day, they want a human being, someone, not some weird Superman made of diamond with no vulnerabilities. It's just, be a real person.
So pretty much exactly what male clients are looking for when booking an escort.
Yeah.
Like it's
I think that
exactly
that's
the
incredibly
same.
similar to what our brands are and what people relate to or what they look for in us. And I don't know if it's something that I should put on the record on the podcast, but I recently booked Darian, and I found the best thing with my time with Darian was that he's it's that, and I wrote on my little little testimonial, it's just not avoiding the fuckboy shit. I did a little, I know, and he was like, is it?
That's so cute.
Very cute.
Oh yeah, because you didn't tell me that you were going to do that.
Just dropped it.
I was just like,
You're a
who is this?
hobbyist, Holly.
I am. I'm now a punter. Oh my god, I have to put a little bit away every month in my punter account. So yeah, the thing that I found really satisfying is that there's no fuckboy attitude, and I think when you're dating, which is something that I've dabbled in a lot over the years as a woman who's been very single for a very long time, the guys that you meet are all so cool, so edgy, on the dating apps. They're all so bad. They all think that they're these like really tough fuckboys, and they're like, oh, so cool, and it's just bullshit. It's so exhausting. And I don't know, you have to go through this whole game with them, this psychological thing of like how cool they are. It's exhausting. And this is why I love my clients first and foremost, because they treat me so great and we have such a good relationship and I know them for the real people they are. But then when I can't fill my needs with my clients on a certain week, it's really nice to have an option to have that sexual release and that intimacy with somebody who is not, I don't know, trying to big note themselves and be like a tough guy. And that was really wholesome. It was a really nice thing. What's the consternation face, Jenna? You look so confused.
Just your horrific taste in men.
I don't think I've got horrific. I mean,
Well, I've never come across those people on dating apps. Like,
maybe
because
you're right.
we obviously, swipe on different people and whatever.
Yeah.
So,
I
anyway,
mean, I do like really, really fucked up
The
individuals.
second a man is like, I'm really cool, I'm tough, I'm like, I'm out of here. What the fuck?
I don't know. I guess I just find that a lot of dudes are trying so hard. And I guess that's what's really nice is that I just didn't get that. Yeah. That's not your vibe.
Yeah, it's probably a good point you're making there. The way I would describe it is an absence of negative traits. So, for a starter, I mentioned the presence of these three big traits that people think that we should have. But then also there's, there are things that you don't want, which is, exactly what you're saying, which is the, someone who's got a chip on their shoulder, something to point to prove. And,
So true.
desperate need for validation, these kind of things. I guess those are things that I overlooked.
Yeah, that's really
in
nice.
my original answer.
But those are the things that allow you to be able to hold space and that allow you to be able to be there for someone else. Like they're the qualities that make a good escort, in my opinion.
Yeah, because if most of your mental attention during a booking is on how am I doing, how am I coming across, and you're managing an impression, then you can't truly be present with them to truly observe and hear what they're saying and then making connections in your mind about what that really means and how to best serve them.
Have you ever had difficulty maintaining boundaries with any of your clients, and how has that played out?
Fairly often, that.
All the
But really,
time.
though, it comes up fairly often. Well, I mean, it's relatively normal and almost expected that they'll develop some sort of feelings. It's just, I mean, that's women generally they like to take their sex with emotions. Sex without feelings is, I mean, that's probably just
I'd
a
say
people
men
thing.
too.
I think it's
Yeah,
a people
yeah.
thing. Yep.
Yeah, it's a human thing. Sex without emotions is, just that little bit not as nice. But yeah, sometimes it can be difficult to maintain boundaries. But I just, they do things like maybe they want to text a little bit too much or overshare or involve me in things that are none of my business, or where it gets a little bit more pressing is when they start to expect more time for free, or they start taking liberties in bookings, like maybe they want to pay at the end instead of at the beginning. That's sort of like I'm pretty hard and fast about that rule because it just works out better if you pay at the start rather than the end. I want to have that dealt with so that I can focus on doing my job rather than spend the entire booking wondering and hoping if I'm going to be paid, and then them handing me a wad of cash at the end of the booking as I walk out the door. It's sort of anticlimactic, so that's why I enforce that rule. But I guess over the years I've gotten better at managing clients' expectations and drawing a bit clearer of a line between when I'm doing my job and when what the difference is between professional and personal gestures. And I've gotten better at being a bit more assertive and not giving them mixed signals, helping them, not leading them down the garden path, and being more aware that that's a possibility as well.
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, I don't think that that's entirely our responsibility to manage. Like, the client has to take some of that responsibility as well. But at the same time, we have the experience. We've been around this rodeo and we know that it happens. So there is an element where I think we have to do everything we can to help with that at the very least. Yeah,
it can be a fine line to walk because, obviously you want to, like, the job is to orchestrate these intensely pleasurable and fulfilling experiences for clients. And in the line of doing that, it can sometimes become unclear whether what you're doing is just an elaborate charade or if it's a genuine feeling and what that means. And even if it is a genuine feeling, does that then, what does that mean?
I think that's where it gets tricky because it more often than not isn't an elaborate charade.
No, that's what I was going there.
Yeah, sorry.
They're sometimes worried that it's this elaborate charade when, in fact, I do prefer to just be genuine. Like, I always give genuine compliments. I don't blow smoke up people's butts, but
unless they pay for it. Yeah.
Yeah, if they paid me enough, I might.
We're such losers.
I don't blow smoke up people's asses, but at the same time, it's tricky.
Yeah, you definitely have to balance what is a genuine experience with not inflating something to be what it's not, and recognise that that moment ends at the end of the booking, and those lines in place.
Yeah, it's not a lie, but it is what it is. Like that's all. It is.
Yeah, that's really well put.
Yes.
It's genuine, but there is a finite, beginning and end. Exactly. Somewhat transactional, but it's as genuine as it may be.
Yeah, it's hard. I think a lot of people it's so nice to talk to other sex workers about that sort of thing because a lot of people, it's difficult to explain, as you've just listened to us trying to explain it and the three of us not quite properly explaining it, but it's nice that other people get it. So we've talked about what people sort of wrongly assume about what's needed as a male escort. So what do you think people assume wrongly about your clients?
Well, all right. Well, there's two camps here. There's things that prospective clients tend to assume about my other clients.
Yep.
And then there are things that people in the general public or just, people that I'm talking to assume, that find out that I'm a male escort in whatever capacity, they tend to assume about my clients, which is, so prospective clients, not all, but I see this theme popping up where they assume that they will be the least attractive or oldest of my clients. I get women in their late 40s or their even early 40s or coming to me and being like, "Oh, I'm significantly older than you. Is that a problem? Is it something that you?" And I'm like, yes, it's completely fine. That's and then on the other side is the things that other people assume is that all my clients are extremely unattractive, and that's just not the reality.
Well, you had Holly as a client, and we know that she is
the most attractive
bombshell.
person.
So
smoke show.
Sorry,
absolute smoke show.
Anyway, sorry. So people assume that all your clients are really unattractive.
Yeah, that's the biggest That's the biggest assumption that people get really wrong. Yeah. At the end of the day, they're women, all shapes, all sizes. Just like my website says, all different life stages, ethnicities, experience levels, professions. If I had to draw a line of best fit to say, okay, what is the mean? Because people still want to drill down and they want to actually know that. Yeah, it does tend to shake out as mostly women in their mid-30s to early 50s is the general sort of age range. Yeah, I get clients in their 20s sometimes. A lot of times they're relatively inexperienced in relationships, or they've had a long period of celibacy, sometimes for years or decades. General dissatisfaction with men or with some aspect of their sex life in some capacity. They're often givers, and they've been giving too much for too long to other people, and they just want something for themselves for once. But yeah, really diverse. I've had all sorts of women as clients, and couples too. I've seen many different relationship dynamics between couples where they come to me. Sometimes it's a voyeuristic experience. Other times they have a cuckold fantasy, or sometimes they just want a regular old threesome. Just
Eiffel Tower experience.
Yeah. Yep.
Do you ever get people thinking, do you ever get men going, you must just get to bang hot chicks all the time? Is that a thing as well?
Yeah. Yeah. So not so much now because I just don't mention it to anyone, other men especially.
Yeah.
I've just learnt that that's not a good road to go down generally. They either start fanboying or they get weirdly jealous or
I imagine some dudes would just get emasculated by it, and they'd be like sizing themselves up against you and thinking, "What's he got? What's I can just see insecure dudes being like threatened by that." Yeah.
Well, it's a very polarizing fact about myself, so I tend not to just bring it up in passing. With people, it's a decision if I bring it up.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about that on the show before. Even if the reaction is a positive one, it's still every time somebody says, "What do you do for work?" you are making a choice to say what it is, and you are making a choice to then engage in some kind of conversation about it, because there is never not a follow-up question.
It's exhausting.
Yeah. And it's not going to be a short, simple answer. It's going to be a conversation.
Yeah.
In what ways has sex work impacted your life, positive or negative, or positive and negative?
I've learnt a lot about the human condition, what it means to be a human being to other people. It's definitely humbled me. It's led me down different paths of inquiry that I've had, and it's led me to follow sort of my natural interests in life, which tends to be, topics centering around philosophy, spirituality, sexuality, psychology, these kind of topics. I've learnt a lot about women, obviously, relationships, sex. I've learned to see through people's facades, a false, if they're showing a false confidence, I can see through that fairly quickly, or oftentimes, or if they're pretending to be okay with something that they're not okay with. Another thing women do, I see often in my clients, is that they just don't speak up. They don't speak their mind. They won't tell you what they want. They just want you to guess. They just want you to know.
We get that with our clients too.
Okay.
but it is definitely, I think that is across the board, but I also know what you mean, particularly with women. You do see that a lot.
Yeah, I would have said, probably women are probably higher in that personality trait of agreeableness.
Yeah.
And I think they've done personality studies on people and found that women generally are higher in agreeableness than men. So that's something that I
screaming Jenna to me. I'm just hearing it going, yeah, that's Jenna.
That's why I'm defensive.
I know. I was sitting here going, not so much me, but definitely her.
But I've had that trajectory as well in learning to speak my mind and enforce my boundaries at times when people have asked more of me than I'm happy to give. But it's also made me more empathetic, so it balances out. Yeah, and those lines of inquiry that it's led me down, it's sort of, because I get asked that question quite often, how did I get started in the work that I do? What led me to this? Because I've done so much wide reading around the topics of spirituality, philosophy, psychology, I've really looked into my past, and I've seen that Darian Rye was actually in the makings as far back as when I was 5 years old. It really does go back that far if you put the pieces together. I had a very religious upbringing, and I'm sure we've all had that conversation before. Views on sexuality, sexual repression is a big thing in the church. I was a very pious little kid. If you met me
were you?
Yeah, if you met me at 10 or 11 and you asked me what I wanted to do, there was a period of time there where I would have said I wanted to be a priest. Whoa. And I wanted to remain celibate for my entire life because that's what the Lord wanted.
God, I would have hated you then.
Wow.
I'm glad I didn't meet
I'm
you then.
shook.
I wish I could go back in time and kidnap myself and mentor myself.
I think a lot of people that were raised with a religious upbringing probably have that kind of feeling.
Yeah. And then what people don't realize about extreme attempts at abstinence from things, anything, it could be anything. It could be donuts, It makes you want it more.
Yeah.
It makes you obsessed with it. And I say this often to people, I find myself seeing this theme in people's lives play out very often, which is whatever they have been denied, that is the thing that they crave the most. As far as the pendulum swings to one side, that's as far as it swings to the other side, until it finds rest somewhere in between the extremes where you're at your happiest. But you need to let that play out. My mother was also pretty absent as a kid, so my parents split up when I was really young. My mother actually kidnapped me and ran away to another town when I was about 4 years old, and she had pretty bad mental health issues. She had actually bipolar disorder, which was that wasn't well known in the early 90s when this was happening. So she was misdiagnosed as having schizophrenia, and actually, it took them a few years to work out actually what was happening with her. So it wasn't well managed, and she'd lashed out at my father violently. Things happened when I was a kid that were
Jesus.
A little bit questionable. So and then for most of my childhood, she was viewed as this sort of enigmatic background character, this enigmatic and antagonistic force in our lives from the perspective of my father and myself. My father was, I only found this out recently, my father was like a massive narcissistic parent. So he was very overbearing, overprotective, hypercritical, and part of that was he didn't let me date. So whenever I mentioned that I was interested in this or that girl, or this or that girl was interested in me, he would be hypercritical of her, and just nitpick and point out everything that was wrong with that. And
did you find yourself then taking that on yourself and then also becoming really critical of that person, or just or just following him? Were you just sort of like, oh, well, if he doesn't want me to date, I won't?
No, I really didn't. I really didn't adopt it at all. But it just made it super, because he was like that, it was super inconvenient for me to date growing up.
Oh, shit, yeah.
So
that's good you didn't internalise that.
So yeah, I mean, the whole way along, basically the theme of my life was basically an absence of female affection. And I've just realised this, fairly recently in the last couple of years, that this was a theme the whole way along, and so that I feel has led to this being like the quest of my life to figure out how to procure feminine affection in my life, because I didn't get it from my mother. Religion told me it was wrong. My dad wouldn't let me date, so it's but it's a human need,
So then how have you found dating, aside from being a sex worker? This is getting very personal, but
very juicy.
Have you found dating to be difficult, not because of sex work or due to, but is that something that you find comes naturally, or that you find really difficult and you think sex work is really easy to compartmentalise those relationships in little boxes?
No, well, I think that's part of the story. It's my my journey, because as a young man, I realized that I had this massive deficiency, which was that I didn't understand how romantic relationships worked. I didn't understand how to do that. How do people do that? And so my early attempts were very awkward and frustrating for me, but I at least had, the thing going for me where I was at least nice and I was at least fairly good looking. So for the most part, women were kind. So it enabled me to sort of go into an upward spiral and just take my baby steps and learn little by little how to relate better to women, and eventually drag myself out of that ditch that I was in. And 5 years down the track, I had a very active sex life, and then another 5 years down the track, I'm a male escort. So it was a fairly quick progression.
You were unleashed. Do you miss the free and affordable ads and social networks without all of the anti-sex rhetoric?
Assembly 4 is a team of sex workers and technologists from Melbourne, Australia, aiming to bring back free and fair advertising and social spaces to the sex working community.
Stepping away from the clunky design of traditional platforms, their two products, Tryst.link and Switter.at, are refreshing and well-needed changes in both presentation and mission.
And both are free to join and open to all.
You can find both of our profiles on Tryst, and I love how it is so clearly designed by sex workers.
Yep, and I love how straightforward and easy it is to use and how much they clearly support the sex working community.
And also how responsive they are when it comes to feedback and customer service.
Check out their website assembly4.com for the word, not the number, for more info.
So, as we always do with a guest, we reached out to our patrons and asked them to submit some questions. Now, we got a lot of questions for... I just realised when you were speaking before that I've been pronouncing your name wrong the entire time I've known you. You said
don't worry.
Darian.
Yeah, I say Darian.
Okay.
I say Darian.
Darian.
Almost no one... Yeah, don't worry too much about it, Jen. Almost no one pronounces it that way. I don't know why...
I feel like it's the height of rudeness to get someone's name wrong, so I've really fucked.
We'll have to re-record the whole intro.
Let's just scrap the whole thing. Let's redo it.
Start from the start.
Take it from the top, guys.
Darian. Okay. Yes, we had more questions than we've ever had before for Darian, which again, the feminist in me was angry about. No personal offence to be taken from that. Okay. I mean, you can choose, actually. I don't get to decide whether offence gets taken, but, So... Our first question. Oh, yes. So my point is that we had to cull some of them, unfortunately. But Our first question is, do you have any advice for first-time clients?
Okay, so I really liked this question because I think I think there are a lot of potential clients waiting in the wings that I sometimes hear from women who've been waiting for years to get in touch with me. They've been waiting in the background, in the shadows, just silently observing.
Yep.
Waiting for me to give some sign that I'm like a murderous psychopath and not worth contacting. But yeah, so my advice to potential to first-time clients would be just say hello. Just start a conversation with me. Start a dialogue. Don't work it up to be this big thing in your mind. Don't try to make it perfect. Just say hello. Tell me something about yourself, and we'll take it from there. And also don't be embarrassed or ashamed of sending that email or that direct message to me, because I get this sense a lot of times that there's this underlying feeling of shame or this feeling of despair or worry that they're somehow defective or that they're a failure because their marriage isn't working or didn't work or whatever it is. But from my perspective, it's actually rare that a potential client comes to me with something I haven't heard before in some form. So everyone who says that, who has this sense that they're somehow strange or defective, they're actually just completely normal.
Yep.
It's just that people don't talk about this stuff very much, and they probably never will. They keep it to themselves for the most part. But rest assured, this is very normal.
We are trying to get the conversation out there.
Yeah, it's very normal stuff.
Do you have any embarrassing or funny escorting stories that you're able to share while still respecting client privacy, of course?
All right, there was one client who was married, and she was, I think, in her late 20s. She was married, and her husband had this, super intense, tough job. Tough, hyper-masculine job.
Yeah.
So she she wasn't happy in the relationship, and she decided to reach out to me, and we developed into a fairly regular, frequent schedule of bookings for a few months. And during the course of that, she actually fully broke it off with her husband. Actually, I don't think it was her husband. I think it was her boyfriend. It was just a long-term boyfriend. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but she actually, during the course of that few months, she officially broke it up with her super badass boyfriend. And so, and the last time I actually saw her, I didn't know it was going to be the last time, but it ended up being the last time. The last time I saw her, it was just a quick little 2-hour booking. He had gone out to watch some
Sorry,
sporting...
we both went 2 hours. That's only quick.
Quick little 2 hour. Sorry.
I reckon that's the difference between male and female escorting, perhaps.
So true, isn't it? I know.
The 2 hours is not a quick booking for us.
No.
Oh, I mean, that's probably standard, actually. It's probably...
Sorry to
sorry.
interrupt.
But still, it's rare for me to get...
I just caught the facial
It's rare for me to
expression.
get 1 hour bookings. But,
Sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry, I'm a cheap ass.
We get 1 hour bookings are our bread and butter. Bread and butter, aren't they?
Sorry.
Yeah,
I'm a cheap ass. I only went the hour. I was like, I just need a good, pussy smashing for an hour, and then we're done. So
Sometimes that's what you need.
Yeah. So
Sorry. So
Well, at least it
the
was
last
very
time you saw
straightforward.
her,
it was simple. Yeah.
yeah, so what ended up being the last booking, he had ducked out to watch some sporting event. I think it was like a fight, and so he was watching this in a pub, I believe, with some friends. And she invited me over, and we had our booking. And I had just finished getting dressed, putting all my clothes on, and we saw headlights come up against the wall through the window.
Yeah.
And she quickly ducked up and looked out the window, and she's like, "Oh my God, it's him!" And she's like, "Fuck, quick, hide!"
and
so she hides
they were
me.
back together
You
at this point.
hid in the house.
No, they were living in the same house,
Yeah.
but sleeping in different bedrooms.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
But,
so you
but she
hid.
she still didn't want him to find out, because it wouldn't have been fun.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been pretty.
Yeah.
So anyway, so she's like, "Shit, it's him. You need to hide." So she hides me in.
Oh, we've all hidden. We've all done that.
Yeah. So luckily I was fully dressed, because this would have been so much worse if I was like completely nude.
When it happened to me, I was naked with socks on, so
Okay.
that was a really good look. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
So she hides me in this sort of walk-in wardrobe on top of a pile of her shoes. And women's shoes aren't like guys' shoes. They're strappy, and they have pointy bits. They don't stack well.
No.
So I'm on a pile of women's shoes in a walk-in wardrobe. She flicks the light off, dives back into bed. She's still completely naked, by the way. And then probably about 30 seconds later, he comes in, and he's like, "What's going on?" And she's like, "What do you mean? Nothing's going on." He's like, "Oh, the lights were just on and you turned them off."
Fuck.
She's like, "It's nothing. Go away." And I'm like, I'm just there trying not to breathe too hard in the dark. Anyway, and he's like, "All right, well, I've got to get my uniforms out for tomorrow." So he walks in the room, opens the door. I've got a clear line of sight to the guy, but luckily it's like pitch black in the wardrobe, and I've got like this little pocket of shadow to hide in.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but I get a clear like look at the guy. I'm like, holy shit, and he's a fucking live wire. Like, he's jacked. He could beat the shit out of me.
Yeah.
And then he like goes in the bathroom. He turns a light on, and he's doing something in the bathroom for like 2-3 minutes, and he comes back out, grabs his uniform, and he's like, "Oh yeah," and he comes and stands at like the door of the walk-in wardrobe, and stops. Mm-hmm. I was like, holy shit! I'm just trying to hold my breath, like I'm trying not to breathe too hard. Yeah. So he's like, "Are you sure there's nothing going on? Like, you're acting really weird."
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh my God, nothing's going on. Just leave." He's like, "All right, bizarre." And so he walks out, going to his room. I don't know, we just sort of wait there silently in the dark for like 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. And then, she creeps out of bed, comes up, and she's like, "I'm going to try to get him to go outside."
What?
"You stay there." I'm like, "All right."
Me.
So she goes out. I can sort of hear them talking muffledly. muffledly, is that a word?
Keep going.
I can hear muffled talking.
Hey, there you go.
I hear muffled talking, then I hear some noises. It sounds like a door opening and closing. So I'm like, all right, this must be my chance. So I slowly creep out of the wardrobe, check around the corner, and luckily I was about 2 meters from the front door because the bedroom was right at the front of the house. So I just quickly snuck out the front door, walked down the street to my car. It was so lucky because she always encouraged me to park in the driveway, and I was like, no way in hell I'm doing that.
Yeah.
Thanks for the invitation, but yeah, that sounds like a fucking stupid idea.
Some of these people who are cheating, I don't know how the fuck they get away with it. Some of the shit they do.
Yeah, it's almost like they want to get caught, right?
Yeah.
Or it's the risk, it's the thrill. Yeah, so I went back to my car. My work phone was in the car. So I had a phone at that time.
Yeah.
So, and I checked my phone. There's all these messages from her like, oh my God, blah, blah, blah. Like, oh, I think he's gone. Or like, yeah, sending me messages like, oh, I'm going to try to get him to go out and blah, 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 blah. All these messages that I didn't get and that would have been making all sorts of weird noises if I'd actually had my phone on me.
And lighting up. And
lighting up.
Yep.
Yeah, and then the final message was, go, go, go.
Oh, cute. Yeah. How long did it take you to get the shit stains out of your pants after that event?
And how much did she tip you?
Yes, right?
Because that should have been extra.
That's a big tip.
By far probably the most intense experience.
Holy dooly,
that's hysterical.
Fucked.
Yeah.
Whew.
Okay, amazing.
Okay.
All right. That was hilarious and uncomfortably relatable. So this is a bit more of a serious question. How have you seen gendered cultural stereotypes around sex clients shape the thoughts and behaviour of female clients?
I'm not sure. I don't see many of my clients comparing themselves to the male equivalent clients, clients of female sex workers. I don't know. I have had a few people mention to me that they've looked up about the etiquette around seeing an escort, but it's been mainly written from the perspective of a female explaining to male potential clients.
A number of our patrons actually have said the same, and they've said there's a real lack of resources for female clients.
Yeah, and I would say, I guess holding themselves to that same rubric, because if they ever jump on Twitter, they see how harshly female sex workers often criticize, just berate the absolute shit out of, male clients, posting screenshots of text messages, these kind of things. It's the kind of thing I can't really do that because I don't think that would ever be, not that happens very often, like not that women who inquire are very polite usually.
Yes. If you were getting hundreds of messages, that were like, are you available?
That's just it. Because we get messages from women too. They just don't often make it to the public shaming level.
Yes. Women tend to act with a lot more
I'm
class.
sure you get bullshit too, though.
True. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. What they worry about is that if they ask too many questions or they try to talk too much, that I'm just going to rage quit on them and post a screenshot or something. Occasionally I get that worry, and I'm like, no, I understand that you need to have a conversation with me to ascertain whether I'm like legit or not, and ascertain whether you like me or not. So I get that's sort of, and that's probably a difference between the two, which is men probably make their sexual decisions extremely quickly, oftentimes, whereas women need more time. They need to really know me as a person, need more reassurance perhaps.
There might be some male clients that yell at me for this, but I think that the screening process is a little bit different, and that the screening process of a male escort from the perspective of a female client is perhaps and really should be, from the information I have on a lot of people who are saying that they are male escorts or who are male escorts, Darian excluded. I think that people who are booking a male escort perhaps need to be potentially more cautious. And that is not to say that female escorts can't be dangerous, and that's not to say that male escorts can't be fucking awesome. But there is a difference in power there, and I think that's a factor.
I would agree. I've had multiple clients come to me who have seen other male escorts, and they've, generally the theme has been that they've had to sort of go through a few in order to find the good ones, or the ones that they gel with better, or the ones that are true professionals.
Yeah.
I do find my female clients, when they contact me, they do need a lot more patience and a lot more reassurance. And I'm always happy to give them a lot more time to chat. So I'll have a lot more back and forth with them. And sometimes they'll contact months in advance and they're like, oh, I don't know, I want to book, but I will, but maybe in like December. And I'm like, that's so cool. Like, you just let me know if you have questions along the way. And I know it takes them a lot more time to build to that. Not always. There are a lot of clients, female clients, who have a lot of experience, but a lot of them don't. And so this is a really big thing for them. Whereas there are a lot of dudes out there who get their rocks off by sending a lot of really leading nonsense messages. And I think you start to get, as a female escort who mainly caters to male clients, you start to get a really good sense of when someone's wasting your time or when they legitimately need a little bit more reassurance. And so the things that we do tend to splash on social media for a laugh or, as a bit of stress release is are the people who we pretty 99% sure are taking the piss. But there are also dozens of dudes who are contacting us who we're really patient with, and you don't see that. So, but then, obviously they do get frightened. They do see those things and they go, oh God, are you going to, I'm sorry, I'm wasting your time. And it's like, well, no, we are humans and you're humans, and it is a nerve-wracking thing to go through this. So we totally get it. And the examples that we show are the 0.001% of people who are just winding us up. And I think that's just an important message that I want to articulate right now for people who are listening, just to clarify that, it's, we're taking the piss out of people who are taking the piss out of us usually.
Well, and for us it feels like we're fighting stigma because people are taking piss out of us because they think that we are there to be taken the piss out of.
Sure.
And so that is why a lot of people will share that. But you're absolutely right, Holly. I'm glad you said that, because I get male clients all the time who are worried about exactly the same thing as Darian was saying, that they go, oh, but I'm being one of those guys on Twitter. I'm like, oh my God, no, you're not. You're fine. You're just a human being. That's cool.
That's what I hear a lot. It's like, am I asking too many questions? Is that too weird to ask, or is it unreasonable to ask that? And I'm like, no.
Asking.
Let's have a conversation.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
What are some of the expectations you've come across that have proven false? What are some non-articulated or unconscious expectations that have proven true?
One that proves false that I have heard often is there's this silent expectation that, and I think this is a big part of why many women have been apprehensive about contacting me, is that they assume that I'm going to walk in the room and just be like, right, get your clothes off, get on the bed, let's get into it. And I think that frightens women. Not many people are going to want to walk into a situation like that and have to start going at it with a complete stranger. And I have to, so because it's unspoken, I need to first figure out that that's what they're assuming.
Yeah.
And then tell them that that's not the case, reassure them that that's not what happens.
That's a good point. Huh.
It's not super often that happens, but it does. I do see it.
Yeah, you have to preempt that fear.
Yeah.
Gee.
I've had that fear from men as well. I'm sorry, I just keep saying it's the same with men, and it's not generally, but I've had quite a few men that have said to me, is it okay if we talk before we get started? I'm like, yes.
Fine.
You don't just have to walk in and put your dick in me. What? Yes, we can have a normal interaction. Absolutely. It's preferable if we say hello, at least.
Yeah.
But that is a fear. I think that is that thing with sex work. Some people do really think it's just sex, literally just sex. But as we all know, sex is a lot broader than just putting a dick in somewhere.
Yeah. I know, Jenna, oftentimes I do say women, but I only see women, so I mean that's what I say. If I say people, then I think it confuses people. It's like, oh, does he see men as well?
Yeah. Well, your experiences are valid, and that's what we want to hear about. And I think we want to jump in and also just show the parallels that we see with our clients as well. It's really interesting for particularly our listeners who've had 30-something episodes of us talking about our primarily male experiences to relate and to show how those similarities exist. So. Yeah.
Have you had much in the way of people asking if you will see male clients or assuming that you do or trying to convince you to?
Yeah. Yeah, I get that from time to time. More so in the beginning years when I was first starting out. But now I think I'm sort of known around the boroughs a bit more.
We
and
all
people
get more shit in the beginning,
know,
for sure.
Yeah, people know what to expect from me now.
How much would you charge to let a guy suck your dick? Like, what's the price on that?
Don't put the number out there, because then he'll get offers.
Yeah, I could probably be persuaded with, a crisp $10 bill and a high five.
I mean, shit. Let's get some
That's
things happening.
attractive.
Yeah.
But it has to be...
That's hot.
The note has to be no older than 2002.
Okay. All right, that's fair.
Opened
So, but
up.
it doesn't have to be one of the
I
new
do
ones.
check the serial numbers.
Okay.
This is,
If it doesn't have to be one of the new ones, though, that's pretty low standards.
Are they
I'd
not
say.
new? I don't think there are new ones, are
Yeah.
there? Are there? Oh, okay. Well, there must be. Okay, sorry. Clearly.
there are in Sydney
I live
anyway.
where the mint is.
I'm sure they've come to Canberra. They probably came through Canberra.
Oh, hozza. Well, I don't look at a lot of $10 notes, It's all hungies for me, baby.
It's true. See them. Terrible. Most important question from our patrons. Are you a cat or a dog person? Or both? Or neither?
It's so hard to choose. I mean, I think they both have their merits.
It's a good answer.
And there's different ways you could take this question. I think what people are trying to do when they ask this question is it's like an attempt to bifurcate the human population into two different distinct factions.
Yeah.
That at some point in the future will war against each other, and we'll have to, we'll have to volunteer our children to fight in
No, our pets.
In
battles.
the cat wars.
to the death. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know. And then the other way you might take it is as an attempt to figure out what sort of person you are. Like what, infer things about your personality, whether you like cats or dogs.
Maybe it's just a fun question.
I don't know. So I guess if you could infer anything about me, it's that I'm sort of more open-minded and accepting of people. I like both cats and dogs. So, I mean, I don't want to pick one. I don't hate one and love the other. I think they're both great, despite their differences.
So when Holly and I were deciding which questions to include, because we did have to cut some of our patron questions, Holly had initially suggested cutting this one. And I was like, no, I think it's really fun to just end on a fun, silly, meaningless question.
Yeah.
But apparently that's not how you took it.
That's not how Darian works.
No. Definitely not. I actually Googled
Oh my God.
why do people ask you if you're a cat or dog person? That's my most recent Google search.
The question is, are you an animal person or a sociopath? That's the real question.
I feel like that's a more appropriate question. Yeah, I definitely like animals. I have a soft spot. for
Hamish had a
animals.
very positive response to Darian, so we're on
Does
board.
Hamish ever not have a very positive
No,
response
oh my
to
God,
people?
yes. There are people he avoids.
Oh, I have
Like,
heard
he will
about the
go-
pooping.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he'll poop at the front door to spite them.
Yeah,
There are people
I have
that's
heard that.
people he likes. That's people he wants to spend time with. He'll poo at the front door.
Oh, he's
But if he-
annoyed.
yes,
Yeah.
because he wants to be with them. But if there's people he doesn't like, he'll go in my bedroom and sleep. Like So no, he's a
enough.
fickle dude.
In terms of which one I relate to more, whether I'm more
Such a cat.
like a cat or like a dog, I think I might have to go with cat.
Such a cat.
You're
I'm not
definitely
sure.
a cat.
Such a
But
cat.
I think I've changed over the years. I used to be more dog-like. You know how dogs are more, they're sort of like always happy to see you, always excited
Yeah.
to see you, and you're their god.
Boring. Yeah.
And whereas with cats,
Boring.
it's kind of like they're more aloof. They're happy to do their own thing. They could take you or leave you.
Independent,
I'm sort of a bit,
non-monogamous.
more
It's my jam.
independent. Yep.
Yeah, that's why I like dogs. Are way too monogamous for me. I can't handle how obsessed with you they are. I'm
Yeah.
like, Jesus, give me
Yeah,
some
yeah.
space.
I love
Yeah.
things being obsessed with me.
Yeah. So I think I'm more like a cat these days.
I just have one more question. Are aliens real?
Absolutely. Mate.
Shit.
Thank you.
I'm the Scully of the podcast, in case that wasn't already clear.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I mean, I don't know.
Very much the Mulder.
very much.
I'm pretty level-headed with that sort of stuff. Like, I don't. This is probably controversial. I don't believe in astrology or tarot card
That's
reading
not
or anything like
controversial.
that.
That is the correct way to be.
Right. Yeah, I'm a skeptic, but I think there's a possibility of them being out there. Definitely.
I think.
But I'm not going to be like
Our
Probably.
argument generally revolves around whether they're walking amongst us on Earth. And that's where we tend to disagree.
Like, I don't know if they're really amongst us, but I think they've been here. Like, they've brought their ships here. Because Darian was watching Ancient Aliens this week, and I was like, you were watching what?
I was just about to say, I've been binge watching Ancient Aliens.
So I was like, okay.
As I find the show absolutely enthralling to watch. I'm glued to it.
Because it's true.
Thank you so much for coming onto our show and sharing another perspective with us. And thanks for how sort of candid you were sharing, some of the darker times and all of that. Because I think, a lot of media about sex work likes to either show the bad or the good. And we do try to show that it's a lot more grey than that, and that there's usually bad and good like there is with everything. So I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you both.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining us. See you next time.
Thank you.
See ya.
Bye.
It's time to thank our wonderful patrons. We do have one new patron this week who wanted to forego the shout out, but I just wanted to say a massive thank you to them because I just think they're a wonderful person. So thank you. You know who you are. Our new giving somebodies are Brian L. and RB. Our even more generous somebodies are Timmy, Andrew, Adam Smith, James E., Lachlan, Sub London, Miss Billy, Nora Knightley, Leslie, Scott Watson, Andrew, our secret admirer,
Margaret, Wheezy, Ellen, Liam, Fritz Your Tits, Mr. E, Scott C, Simon, Skippy, FN, Our Footstool, Greenie, Ophelia Parker and Aaron. And our extremely generous somebodies are Aaron, Andrew, Pete, Sienna Saint, Brino, Adam Orr, Nick, Wombat and B&J.
Thanks so much for tuning in. See you next time.
Bye.
Please look out for us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook and Patreon. Our name everywhere is Somebody You Pod, as in podcast. Our Patreon starts at just $3 a month, and you can get all of our episodes ad-free and a day early, plus bonus episodes, behind-the-scenes action, bloopers and more. Thank you for taking the time to listen to the voices of sex workers. And remember, somebody you love might just be a sex worker.